and I'm going to push us forward because this is an exciting thing, which is where you do all the work. Not exactly, but it is where I invite you to consider your role. So I want to invite you to come back to the intentions that, oh, I forgot to give you the prompt to think about during the break. I'll just tell you now, because it's going to come back up in a second, which is to ponder what your role in the economy is. In a way, that's what we're really here to explore. How can we be an even more life-affirming part of the economy? And that is, as promised on the tin, what the second part of this session will really explore. To do that, I'm going to set us up with a bit of context, and then I'm going to set you into spaces where you can really lean into these questions, and then we'll come back together and I'll blow everything up. How does that sound? I want to remind you of your intention. Some of you who came in a bit late may not have heard, so I'll re-ask you to consider why you're here, and perhaps any new questions that have come up as you've been listening to me bombard you with thoughts. And then I want to remind us that all models are broken. So even this materiality lens that I've created and this model that I'm about to share with you, which I think of as a kind of decision-making model when I want to figure out what to do. I hope it works. I hope it informs you, but it's not a prescription by any stretch of the imagination. Rather, it's designed to help discuss in a space that can be very overwhelming, and also help to figure out, well, where are there changes for me to make? Where do I have agency? And what kind of decisions can I make with a life-affirming economy as the sort of end goal or part along the journey, if you will. So that's what we're here to do. And you may remember we put a pin in this kind of emotionally triggering possibility around like the food industry as one example. I want you to remember that you put a pin in that thought and keep it handy here, not because we can solve it, but because I think of it as really good information, like what's coming up for you, what's stressful, where's like, whoa, I don't like how this feels. And now let's jump into the broken model. This is my sort of back of the envelope and kind of old habit as a consultant to create little models to figure out what to do. The first piece of this for me is what's mine to do? And the answer might be nothing, but it sometimes feels like everything. I have to change everything about my whole life. And so how can I narrow that down a little? And what do I mean by mine to do? So that can be anything from how I earn or spend money, how I spend my time, who I talk to, what I say. There's lots more things that are mine to do. And please keep that as a running list. And also what needs to change? Maybe nothing. Right? Again, oh, things are pretty good. Or, oh my God, the whole wide world, every industry, everywhere, all the time, and more. So there's probably a place in between there for us to play. And when we look at what needs to change, that could be anything from attitude and lifestyles to regulations and incentives, infrastructure projects. I mean, again, there's more. Please note, these are just some quick examples. And I want you to be thinking of more. What else is yours to do and what else needs to change? And then there's this, I think, really important factor. This is where I personally experience some overwhelm when I hold it. And so I try to give myself structures and ways to navigate it. And this is around the scope or impact piece. Some of what I might do may just be personal. People may not even know about it, may not be noticed by anybody else. And some things might be of a bigger impact. Maybe it's going to influence my organization or my community in some way. So it's more than me, but it's still pretty bounded. Some things are like, whoa, like that just changed the whole country or the whole bioregion or the whole industry, right? And there's going to be places in between that. And there's other dimensions too. I'll just throw a couple other ones out that I sometimes play with. One is time, right? Short, medium, long term. And there may be a reason why I want to focus on one or the other, depending on where I am in my sort of life stage, if you will, or other factors. Another one is, how does it feel? And I actually think that's a really good one. I would never dream of, well, I could dream of it, but I didn't model that because I feel like that is where models are especially broken. But really checking in with like, what feels the most compelling and lightening to do versus the most dreadful and dreary and doomsy. And sometimes that can be helpful to figure out what to move towards. So these are all, fun little bubbles, but what am I talking about? There's a highly subjective. I'm the subject here, so I want to make change. How can I use these subjective pieces? I've created a little bit of a traffic light system to illustrate this point in as much as is useful for you. So, for example, I might not be inclined to go towards the really needs to change, in my opinion, aspect of national policy. There's some national policies here that I think are driving us in the wrong direction. That's a really big change. But I don't feel like I'm in a position to embody that change. It's not mine to do. It's not a space that I'm in. So although the impact may be huge and I see the need for it to change, I'm not in a place to embody it. Whereas worm composting, I'm in a place to embody that change. I compost my food scraps with worms. I have for decades. And so I can definitely embody that change. It's mine to do. It's my food scraps and I can manage the worms. Probably not having a huge impact as I do this as an individual and people don't even know. Whereas ESG disclosure, it feels like it's mine to do. I can embody real changes around this. I have 20 years of expertise in this space. I can take that in, and I think it needs to change. It's not the ultimate change. I think there's a lot of bigger things that need to change, but it's connected to changes. And I see it as relevant and important. And I can choose to widen my impact and connect with my community. This is me doing that now. That's me making an open source free tool and just putting it out there and making noise about it. See this little gray circle that just opened up on the ESG disclosure bubble? That's how I was a few years ago when I didn't have a platform. I didn't have a website. I didn't invent a tool. I was just doing my ESG disclosure thing and trying to change it from within the projects that I was on and not really getting there. So it just gives you a kind of straw man of how this model can work. By the way, I have big dreams about worm composting and doing it in a more impactful way with a wider community. So that bubble may change size. Stay tuned. There's also these distortion fields, and I just want to emphasize how broken models really are, because, for instance, you could take this and say, well, what I need to work on is just needs to change driven. There's something right in front of me right now. It's affecting my family. It's affecting my health. It's affecting my company, whatever it is. I got to do this. I don't care about these other factors. It just needs to change. Another way to look at it is, there's a bunch of stuff going on out in the world. I kind of turn my TV off. There's something I want to change. It's mine to do, and I'm just going to do that. And there's no right or wrong here. And I will emphasize that. This is a neutral position I take. It's not, the map is not the territory. It's not about getting the model right. It's about making change. And I invite you to consider what changes you can make. I'm leaving out some really big, important things that I think of as kind of the darkness. In the Mind to Do camp, there's things like an awareness of privilege, addressing blind spots and ignorance around sort of how did we get here? What is the kind of colonial, patriarchal, linear, mechanistic worldview that made this industrial norm normal? Acknowledging my own role and complicity in it. Those are really, really big spaces that I'm just skimming over and showing you one kind of strange looking slide about, but that's a big, big topic. And in the Needs to Change department, relatedly, we have in our industrial systems embedded oppression, violence, ethnocide, genocide. Like, this is real. It's big. It's not just a news article. It's structural norms within our industrial project. And that, remember the Glencore slide with the pay scale, that's not random. Like, I didn't go looking for that. It's normal and worse in some companies. So this is real and it's dark. And I'm just lightly putting it here for the moment. And what I'd like to encourage you to do is, what is yours to do? What is the change you seek? What is the impact that you believe you can have? And, really starting to kick at that. And how does that role, sorry, what's that? And you probably see my cursor moving around. How does that role shift your role in the economy? Right? Like, who are you in this economy? What are you trying to do? For instance, I see myself as a sort of mischief maker in corporate disclosures, trying to reorient how we understand the truth of industry. And I'm trying to do the best I can at that and considering what is my role and what's next. What's your role? What's next? And what's in the way? And let that what's in the way come up, not stop your ideation or thinking, but do notice it. Don't trample it, because if you do, it'll just, some smarter person said, go in the basement and come back for dinner at the most inopportune times. Well, so you can figure out what's yours to do, what needs to change, what's the impact you'd like to have, And how does that change your role in the economy? Keep your ears perked up for what's in the way. Any questions?